A Bangladesh court convicts ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of crimes against humanity over last year's deadly student crackdown. The verdict follows a months-long trial that found she ordered the security response to the uprising. Presidents Macron and Zelensky signed a letter of intent for Ukraine to acquire up to 100 Rafale fighter jets and a new defence system from French firms. Paris says the deal, spanning about 10 years, includes future contracts for SAMP-T systems, radars and drones to bolster Ukraine's war effort. At least 45 Indian pilgrims are feared dead after a bus crash near Medina in Saudi Arabia, with only one survivor undergoing treatment. Indian officials say a 24/7 control room is now active in Jeddah as Telangana's chief minister seeks urgent coordination with Riyadh. Japan scrambles fighter aircraft after a suspected Chinese drone flies between Yonaguni Island and Taiwan. Tokyo says the incident comes just days after Prime Minister Takaichi's comments on Taiwan heightened tensions with Beijing. The death toll from a Russian missile strike on Balakia in eastern Ukraine rises to 3, with 10 others wounded overnight. Local officials say the attack hit the city during the night and emergency crews are still working at the scene. Germany says it will lift restrictions imposed in August on arms exports to Israel that could be used in the Gaza conflict. Berlin says the move follows a new assessment of Israel's security needs amid the ongoing war. South Korea's military proposes talks with the North to avoid further border clashes after recent incursions by North Korean troops. Seoul says it wants both sides to set a clear reference line along the military demarcation line to prevent accidental confrontations. Leftist candidate Jeanette Jara takes a narrow lead with 27% in Chile's first-round election, with far-right rival Jose Antonio Cast at 24%. Despite trailing, Cast remains favoured to win the runoff as crime and immigration dominate a deeply divided electorate. Now, the Kremlin has made several key statements today, starting with a strong condemnation of a bill proposed by US President Donald Trump. The bill, which would sanction any country doing business with Russia, was described by the Kremlin as having a very negative impact. The Kremlin further expressed hope for a future summit between President Putin and Trump once necessary preparations have been made. Additionally, Russia emphasized its ability to quickly mitigate the consequences of a recent Ukrainian attack on Novorossiysk, stating it could resume all export activities in short order. There were also discussions regarding a potential exchange of prisoners with Ukraine, although the Kremlin cautioned that no concrete details could yet be provided. In some related news, Ukraine has confirmed its plans to purchase 100 Rafale warplanes from France in a meeting between President Zelensky and Macron. Okay, joining us now is Martin Saar-Arias. He's a foreign affairs expert and he joins us live from Ecuador. Thank you very much for joining us, Martin, here on NewsX World. Of course, the Kremlin has opened today with statements condemning this bill which President Donald Trump has proposed, saying it would sanction any country doing business with Russia, and was described by the Kremlin as having a very negative impact on relations. Of course, Russia's economy is, the state of Russia's economy is widely disputed concurrently. What would such a bill have, what impact would such a bill have on Moscow's economy right now?
I think the main impact will be the polarization of the talks and of the aim to achieve an agreement between Ukraine and Russia, since now the US is taking a more pro-Ukraine approach, I think this economical war is going to devastate Russia, since it's going to basically ask for a kind of blockade. It's going to aim to block the Russian economy, and this is going to make Putin stop taking in consideration several talks that were on the way with Trump. And now the situation is going to be more polarized, and it's going to be a situation where the U.S. is going to back more Ukraine, and any possible agreement is going to be less possible.
Yes, and Martin, of course, there has been a deal signed between France and Ukraine with the purchase of 100 Rafale warplanes from France and a wider defence agreement over the next 10 years. Your thoughts on the impact that 100 new warplanes from the French is going to have on the Ukrainian war effort?
I think all of the efforts to stop a major and total war are being jeopardized. And I think right now the talks and the agreements are going to be less relevant. Now we're seeing a clear attempt to prepare for a total war. I think France has it clear. I think the European Union has it clear. Also, Germany is spending a lot of its budget in security. I think Europe and the Western Bloc is going to be prepared for a war. And I don't think right now we're talking about any possible scenario where the war is going to be ended by agreements or by diplomacy, whether by deterrence and by force.
Yes, Martin, do stay with us as we have further updates coming out of Europe next. Germany has announced it will remove the restrictions it imposed in August on arms exports to Israel, which could be used in the Gaza Strip. The decision, confirmed by government spokesperson Sebastian Hule, is set to take effect on November the 24th of this year. The move comes amid shifting geopolitical dynamics and Germany's government initially imposing the restrictions in response to concerns about the ongoing war with Gaza. With the lifting of these measures, Israel will once again be able to receive the arms supplies it requires, although the decision has stirred debate both domestically and internationally. Martin joins us once again. Martin, of course, this came during rising international concerns over Israeli conduct within the Gaza Strip. And now Germany has announced it will remove said restrictions it imposed on the arms it was providing to Israel. Your thoughts on Berlin's movements here?
I think it's a pretty natural move. Germany is the best ally of Israel in Europe due to historical ties. And specifically, the government of Germany right now is very empathic with the support and protection of Israel as a Jewish state. However, during the war with Gaza, Germany had some moral concerns that this could affect the life of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Now the situation is absolutely shifted and different, since there's a ceasefire going on. So right now, Germany can be sure that Israel is not going to be using this for a massive destruction of Gaza, whether just for defensive and basically defensive moves. So it's pretty natural that Germany is going to always be supporting Israel and its defense.
Yeah, and Martin, of course, this comes as other European allies previously recognised the Palestinian state. Germany, however, didn't, and some European arms embargoes still are holding on Israel. Why do you think that Germany has chosen now to take these arms restrictions off?
I think the reason behind this is because obviously Germany will always support Israel in its fight for its existence. And regarding the second decision of Germany of not recognizing a Palestinian state, is pretty obvious. Unfortunately, the Palestinian people do not have a legit representation. We're talking about Hamas, a terror organization, recognized worldwide as a terror organization. I don't think any European country should recognize right now a Palestinian state under these conditions. it should be proper to wait until all of these terror organizations are absolutely erased from the Gaza political and Palestinian spectrum. And once the Palestinian people have a legit representation, a legit type of government, it will be the proper time to talk about a Palestinian state.
Okay, Martin, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. We now move over to South Asia for our next story. Ousted Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has responded to the death sentence given to her by the International Crimes Tribunal. A statement of Hasina shared by the Bangladesh Awami League states that the verdicts announced against her have been made by a rigged tribunal established and presided over by an unelected government with no democratic mandate, calling them biased and politically motivated. It also added in their distasteful call for the death penalty. They reveal the brazen and murderous intent of extremist figures within the interim government to remove Bangladesh's last elected prime minister and to nullify the Awami League as a political force. Meanwhile, Bangladesh's interim government called the death sentence for Sheikh Hasina as a historic verdict and warned that any attempt to create chaos and disorder would be dealt with strictly. Okay, we're now joined by Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar. He's a senior strategic and international affairs expert, and he joins us live from New Delhi. Of course, huge developments coming out of Bangladesh today, Dr. Kochar. Now, what is next for Sheikh Hasina? We've seen some support maintained in Bangladesh for the Awami League. But in regards to her, of course, she remains out of the country with a death sentence in Bangladesh. What happens next?
Thank you, Thomas. You see, anything which happens in the neighborhood has a ripple effect in our own country. And this verdict means three things. The first is that as long as this present regime is there in Bangladesh and the outcome of the elections and what the next government thinks about this verdict, I think it's curtains for the time being for Sheikh Hasina as far as Bangladesh is concerned, because she doesn't have a right to appeal, because as I can see, she should have a legitimate right to appeal this verdict. And three things of international law optics I can see is, firstly is the tribunal's independence is being contested internationally. A tribunal has to not only sound transparent and fair, but appear to be also fair. And I would have appreciated if these proceedings of the tribunal were done in camera and publicized to show to the world that a very, very transparent method was adopted to listen to the witnesses, have a look at the evidence, and then come out with a verdict. And this verdict has been very, very fast, because normally such cases, we will not find these tribunals taking decisions so fast. So I think with the elections approaching in February 2026, the aim of this entire exercise was to ensure that a verdict is given before the elections. Because if you remember, Awami League has been banned from these elections, which again is not a legitimate kind of action, because no political party can be banned. Every party has a right to contest, and we saw this thing happening in Pakistan also, where PTI also got banned and all. So we see these things happening in these countries where they project themselves as democracies, but actually they are not democracies. They are anarchies. and it doesn't augur well for our own border management, because now the BSF and the border forces have to be very, very careful, because in the case there are riots in Bangladesh, and what indications we are getting is that already crude bombs have been fired upon, and a riot-like situation is actually emerging there, and the victimization is being done of these people, Awami League, and also we may find a refugee problem also at the border. So that would also, border security will have to be seen, because having been on that border is not entirely a fence, so it is possible that there will be illegal crossings over to India. So we need to be very, very careful for that. Second is a follow-up action, because what you actually mentioned now is what next. A follow-up action, most probably Dhaka will ask India for extradition of Sheikh Hasina in view of this verdict, because she's supposedly, I'm not too sure of it, she is staying in India. And then India's response has to be seen now, because India must balance the legal obligations. The human rights posture also has to be seen, and the domestic politics also has to be seen, because if we also have certain business interests in Bangladesh. Our firms are already there, so they would also be have to put on a contingency plan, because in case a situation worsens in Bangladesh, and in case India is not going to accede to the extradition request of Bangladesh, the security and safety of our own people in Bangladesh will be in question, because we have a number of projects which are ongoing in Bangladesh. The power transmission projects are there. The garment industries are there, where our people are actually working there. So I think this is a very, very crucial phase, and it is extremely important for the Bangladesh administration, because if Mohammed Yunus claims to be a leader where he is bringing Bangladesh back to normalcy, if he is bringing Bangladesh back to the path of progress, he must issue a calmly worded statement, and not to inflame the passions of the people, because still, you see, Awami League has been in power for Bangladesh almost close to 2 decades. So you can see that it has grassroots you following there. There are large number of people who may not be actually coming out of the open right now, but who are sympathizers of Awami League. So I think Bangladesh cannot afford to stay in a fractured society. And it's extremely important for the leaders of that country to carefully assess the situation. And my last point is the role of the Bangladesh Army, because the role of Bangladesh Army, I am quite disappointed. It seems to have gone into a political mode. It seems to have gone into a mode where it is trying to support all actions of the present government. So I think the army has got a political role. So army needs to play a very important, a proactive role, I would say, because the future of stability, and especially after February 2026, and is ensured by the army. And my last argument here is, my last comment here is that we need to see the role of United States, America, that is America, China and Pakistan, because these are the three countries who have played a great role in Bangladesh after the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. We have reports of ISIS groups, ISIS groups, and Lashkar-e-Toiba giving sanctuary now by the Bangladesh administration. So these aspects will also affect the border security, and especially India's concern. So India's actual concern is right now is India has to take a stand. What kind of statement the Ministry of External Affairs and MEA would like to now give now, and what kind of stand India would like to take? That will be interesting to see. Though I personally visualize that there won't be much change in
Yeah.
India's stand as far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, because we will stick to that stand. We'll continue to support her, but we must be prepared for the future after this, because the future after this
Yes.
does not give me a positive intent as far as relations with Bangladesh are concerned.
Yes, do stay with us, Dr. Kachar. We have further news coming out of Bangladesh this hour. And in Dhaka, protesters have clashed with riot police outside the family home of former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. According to the United Nations, up to 1,400 people were killed and thousands were wounded, mostly by gunfire from security forces during these anti-government demonstrations between July the 15th and August the 5th of last year. The worst political violence in Bangladesh since its 1971 War of Independence. Meanwhile, the International Crimes Tribunal, Bangladesh's domestic war crimes court located in the capital Dhaka, sentenced Hasina to death, concluding a months-long trial that found her guilty of ordering a deadly crackdown on the student-led uprising. Dr. Kochhar joins us once again. Of course, we've had word from the Bangladeshi government that protests and violence like this is going to be quashed strictly. What do you think that could mean under the current interim government if we see chaos and disorder increase at a certain rate?
You see, whenever a demonstration become violent and there is a law and order situation there in that country, I think the government of the day will have to invoke a certain amount of powers it has, like Section 144, like we have, that you will not permit the assembly of more than 5 people. Every country has its own types of laws. And at the same time, the situation, if it goes out of hand, and the way the reports are emanating from Bangladesh, the violence is spreading. And if this violence is not contained, then unfortunately, I have a feeling that we may not have, or there may be an excuse to postpone the elections, because there is hardly any time left now between today and February. So in case this situation is not going to stabilize in Bangladesh, and in case in most probability, I don't think Awami League will be allowed to participate in these elections. So considering this background of this entire situation and the riots and all this thing going to happen, I have a feeling that this verdict of Sheikh Hasina could have been done at a time when there was an elected government. So I think there is a kind of a strategy in place to ensure that elections don't take place in Bangladesh. I have a strong premonition to suggest that why this verdict was given now, and why in 30 days this verdict has been done, when you don't have an elected government in place, and when there is no transparency or independence of the crime tribunal. So I think all these factors are indicating to me that we may not have, or we may have a postponed election.
Yes.
Because February, the possibility of an election, I think, appears to be remote as of now.
Yes. Dr. Kochhar, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to have you on the programme, as always. We now move on and over to Europe, and Britain's expressed opposing views on immigration as the government unveiled what it described as the most sweeping overhaul of asylum policy in modern times. The Labour government has been tightening immigration rules, particularly targeting illegal small boat crossings from France in an effort to counter the rising influence of the populist Reform UK party, which has driven the immigration debate. Let's take a listen in to what was said.
I think asylum seekers come here because they know that they're going to get given accommodation, money, you know, a good life without having to work for it. But in that respect, if people want to come over here and work and provide and give into the system, I'm all for that.
I personally feel like it's not right. I feel like immigration is something that is needed. I feel like a lot of the Western countries have gone to countries and caused so much havoc and chaos and damage to those countries, which has caused like people in those countries to come here. You know, even my heritage, like my family's part of the Windrush generation, or my grandparents and stuff, and they came here to help make, you know, they worked for the NHS, help support so much people from this country, and like gave so much culture and helped the economy in many ways. So I feel like it's not something that we should be doing.
I think they're rushing it. I think they're responding to a febrile public attitude rather than one that looks like they're in control of the situation. This looks like a knee-jerk reaction. I can't say where the boundary is, but I think they look like they don't know either, and that's their job.
You know, I work at the NHS, and we got good people who can't get jobs because the laws, and then you got people just coming in and sponging. There's no consistency. So most people my age think they're not doing enough